Valorant can be tough for newer players, heck, for even experienced players who are familiar with CS, because there's a lot of decisions and new things coming forward, like what agent do I use, what are their abilities, who's better than the other, and also what weapon should I buy and when. This video is going to go over that for new players to make it simple and to make it accessible so that you know when you jump into your first game of Valorant which weapons you should use by ranking and explaining them in this video against one another. You'll know why you pick this weapon up before you pick another weapon up, which weapon is better in what circumstances, and of course, why you see most of your favorite streamers or pros using things like the Vandal, not a lot of people using the Odin, and probably never seeing people use the Shorty. We'll talk about all that right now as we kick off the video, so make sure to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel for more information like this, or if you like my other content on Apex Legends. Alright, let's get started here. The classic firearm is a firearm that you're going to get at the start of a round. You get 800 credits, and you don't have to spend anything on this classic firearm. It does a decent bit of damage, but it will take more than one headshot to actually down someone without armor, as it does 78 damage, 22 damage for the leg, and of course 26 for the body between 0 to 30 meters. If you back up, it will do 22, 66, and 18 between 30 and 50 meters, and it's pretty much just a weapon that's going to give you the ability to start off the game and maybe invest in light armor or a shorty if you feel like you're going to be rushing and playing very up close to somebody, instead of investing into a higher level weapon sidearm like a Ghost. Let's talk about the Shorty, however, because the Shorty is a semi-automatic shotgun that you're just not going to see very often in play. It's 200 credits, and it's got a 3.3 round per second fire rate. The pellets, with 12 pellets, do 12, 36, and 10 damage from body, head, and leg, respectively, between 0 to 9 meters. But that is a very short distance in this game, and part of the reason is that you're just not seeing a lot of people play up close that much because it is very risky and you do expose yourself versus kind of covering angles in a game like this and really trying to take more of those long distance fights. You do also see a significant decrease in the ability to kill someone from range, which is why this weapon is just so not effective for most players when they're looking to spend their credits early. Most people stay with a weapon that we'll be getting to in just a moment. Now, the Frenzy is a fun weapon, and it is a fully automatic sidearm with a fire rate of 10 rounds per second. It's got a body damage count of 26, headshot of 78, and leg of 22 from 0 to 20 meters, and that drops back by 5 for pretty much the body count, but it drops back significantly for the headshot count to 63. For the legs, it's another drop from 22 to 17 between 20 and 50 meters, and of course the magazine capacity is 13. Now, all bullets in this game actually can penetrate walls, but sidearms will have the lowest effectiveness in being able to penetrate walls until you get to your heavies, which have the highest effectiveness as well. We'll get to those in just a second, like the Ares and the Odin. Shout out to all my Smite fans. Alright guys, so the Frenzy is pretty good. It's a weapon that you can use, especially if you like to spray and play and up close. You're not trying to hit those headshots, but you want to get more into that medium range. You're going to find some success with a Frenzy, and it is only 400 credits, which is a decent buy. Now, if you spend 500 credits, you're going to get have 300 credits left over and be able to buy pretty much one of the more premier weapons in the start of your games, which is the Ghost. Now, this is the only sidearm right now that we can find from an early buy besides the Sheriff that can headshot without armor. It will do 105 for the head, 30 for the body, 26 for the leg between 0 and 30 meters. But if you're any farther than that, you lose the ability to one tap on a headshot, and it's 25 body damage, 88 headshot damage, and 21 leg shot damage between 30 to 50 meters. So you do have to find that mid-range. It's got a 15 magazine capacity, and its wall penetration is actually medium, higher than most of the other sidearms. It's semi-automatic with a 6.75 rounds per second, so it's a little fast, but it will also give you that ability to really two-tap somebody or one-tap most people in the situation. Now, talk about the big daddy of one-tapping, let's get over to the Sheriff, which is a semi-automatic weapon most closely associated to the Deagle in CS, pretty much a carbon copy in that regard. It's got 4 rounds per second as far as a fire rate, and the body damage is 55, the headshot is 160, and the leg is 47 between 0 and 30 meters. It drops down to 50, and of course 145, and then 43 for both of those all three of those categories between 30 and 50 meters. Now, the wall penetration for this is extremely high, and one of the reasons you'll see players opt into this for more of a high impact, low value buy is that even with full armor, this is a sidearm that can actually one shot. Even with that 50 extra armor when you can kind of full buy. And so that's what makes it really valuable, and so it's probably going to rank alongside the Ghost as the 2 best sidearms that you can grab in this game. Now let's move on to the SMGs. The Stinger is an SMG that is fully automatic and fires the fastest of the rounds. Excuse me, the fire rate is the fastest per both of the SMG options that you have. It's got a bit of a zoom mode with its alternate fire, which is a 4-round burst and gives you some spread reduction. And really, using your alternate fire for these weapons will slow down your rate of fire, but it will decrease the spread, which is how far those bullets fly to the left and right when you hold down the trigger. So it could be helpful for newer players, although it will leave you a bit more exposed. Body damage is 27, headshot damage is 67, and leg damage is 23 between 0 and 20 meters, and that drops between 20 and 50 meters. So you have less wiggle room on this to be able to fight from farther range, which is where the rifles start to take advantage of that, because they can have much more range and still do the same amount of damage or more. Now, what you're following into now is the Spectre. This is a fully automatic SMG. It's got a 13.33 rounds per second fire rate. It's also got that zoom mode, and give you that slight spread reduction, and it drops the fire rate down again. Body damage is 26, its headshot damage is 78, and of course its leg damage is 22. And again, the SMGs will have that 0 to 20 meter range to do that full damage, and if you drop past 20 meters, you're going to start looking at body counts of 22, headshot damage of 66, leg shot damage of 18. The magazine capacity is 30, and its wall penetration is medium, and the difference between that and the Stinger is that the wall penetration is low, and it's also got a lower magazine count. So the Spectre is probably where you want to go if you're going to buy an SMG. It's 1600, and I've seen a lot of people do some pretty decent work with this weapon, so I'd rank it in a pretty medium tier for this game. Now we're looking at shotguns, and Bucky is probably my favorite shotgun that you have because of the alternate fire. It's a semi-automatic shotgun with a fire rate of 1.1 rounds per second, and the alternate fire is a semi-automatic air burst that extends your primary shot and allows you to really do damage from range. This is one of my favorite things about this weapon, as the pellets do 22 damage body, 44 damage head, and 19 damage between 0 and 8 meters, but it's very, very hard to extend that if you're up close when you left click. So I stick to alternate firing this weapon because it does give you a lot more range and more utility on a shotgun, which is usually very one-dimensional. And it's only, I believe, 900 credits, so you will be able to make out with a little bit more economy saving if you grab for a Bucky and you feel like a shotgun is in your kind of path to be picking in your game. Moving on to the other shotgun, it's the Judge. Now, this is a semi-automatic shotgun. It's very similar to an EVA 8 if you're looking at that in Apex Legends. It's a full automatic shotgun with 17 body damage, 34 head damage, and 14 leg damage between 0 and 10 meters. That drops all the way from 15 to 50 meters to being about 10 body, 20 head, and 9 for the leg. It does not, however, have that alternate fire, so you can see that, yes, deadly up close, it's just not as viable as the Bucky from multiple ranges, which is why, in my opinion, the Bucky takes the best value shotgun as far as 500 credits less or 600 credits less, and I think that utility of being able to alternate fire it. Now, moving into the rifles, you're going to see the cheapest rifle available, which is the Bulldog. The Bulldog is more of a economy buy of a rifle, and you can tell by some of the things it lacks from the Guardian, the Phantom, and the Vandal. It's a full automatic primary fire, and it also has a zoom, which is a 3-round burst, similar to the Hemlock if you played Apex Legends, but it fires 4 rounds per second. It's got 35 damage to the body, 116 to the head, and leg damage is 30. It's 0 to 50 meters for all of these ranges. So the thing about rifles is that they will not fall off like SMGs or shotguns. So it's a much more really utilitarian type of use, so that you can grab both extended range fights and close range fights and still be effective with a fast fire rate and hard hitting bullets. This will headshot without armor, but if you do have armor or even light armor, you will not be able to penetrate most of the defenses without landing a few more shots. It's got 24 magazine capacity, and it's also got a wall penetration status of medium, meaning that you can use this to shoot through walls and be effective. Now, let's talk about the Guardian, which may be one of my favorite and potentially my favorite weapon in all of Valorant. This is a semi-automatic weapon, so you've got to click down every time you want to shoot. The alternate fire gives you a zoom with a slight spread reduction, and the fire rate is 6.5 rounds a second. The body damage is 65, and the headshot damage is 195, so good luck trying to survive a headshot from this. It just can't be done. Leg damage is 49, and that's all from 0 to 50 meters. Again, noticing how rifles have that 0 to 50 meters wiggle room of being able to do the same amount of damage. Well, at least for the most part. The Guardian is one of those for people who like to be accurate, who like to have more control on their shots, and for me, it's one of the most fun and I think most effective, if you can land your shots, weapons in the entire game. So make sure to check this out. This is one of the best that you could pick up, but it's still not the one we see most players defaulting to. At 2,700 credits, it is just shy under its, I guess, cousin, nephew, uncle of the Phantom, and we'll talk about that right now. The Phantom is the fully automatic, unlike the semi-automatic Guardian, with a fire rate of 11 rounds a second. You can zoom in, get a slight spread reduction, and get a lesser fire rate of 9.9 rounds a second if you hold down right-click. Now, the body damage is 39. When comparing to the Guardian, it's almost half that, which is 65. But the headshot damage is 156 and the leg shot damage is 33. You're thinking this is great. Well, here's where it starts to fall off. It's got a magazine capacity of 30, which is nice, but that's only between 0 and 15 meters you can get those numbers. If you want to shoot between 30 to 50, you get 31 damage, 124, and then 26 as well. That is a bit of an issue, and if you want to find yourself hitting the exact same amount of damage, then this is probably not going to be what you need. However, what I will say is that if you find yourself still experiencing a lot of value with this weapon, go for it. It will give you a little bit more of a magazine capacity. Now, secondly, we want to talk about the Vandal. Now, the Vandal is one of those weapons that I think you're going to see being the best weapon in all of Valorant. Most people are going to love this weapon, and let me tell you why. It has all of those same stats, essentially, but it's between 0 and 50 meters that it can get that damage. So, 39 body, 156 head, 33 leg, and it don't have to basically be up close as the Phantom, which is going to be the difference between these two rifles. The Phantom will be just as effective up close, but you're sacrificing the ability to hit as hard at range, whereas the primary fire and the ultimate just ownage of the Vandal is that you can do all that damage from any range that you are between 0 and 50 meters. Yes, it's got less of a magazine capacity at 25, but it's pretty much the overall better weapon, which is why you would most likely pick that up and why we see so many pros using it right now. If you've watched some of the streams or anybody else he's been playing with, the Vandal is pretty much where it's at. Okay, now let's talk about the Marshal, which is a sniper we've seen Dr. Disrespect try to use a little bit, and if you play with it, there's a big difference here, and one of the big differences is that you must headshot in order to actually kill somebody with this weapon one off if they have armor, which is that's really the big difference between the op. You can also hip fire this, as the crosshairs are a lot more accurate if you do hip fire. You do not have to zoom in. It's a little bit more fun if you do. It does 101 body damage, 202 for headshot damage, and leg damage is 85, all between 0 and 50 meters. Medium wall penetration, a magazine capacity of 5, and a fire rate of 1.5 rounds per second. The zoom also reduces the spread and slows down the fire rate. Now the op, the big op, what most people know, the famous gun from CS is now called the Operator here instead of the AWP over there. It's a pretty funny play on words. Got to give some shout outs to those at Riot, kind of giving the gentle nod to CS, what this game is really based a lot around, but with abilities. And you've got to say the big difference between this is that this gives you a dual zoom mode if you want to toggle down, which I'm not going to showcase here because I don't actually like to use it, but the damage is enough to, even in the body, make sure with someone with armor, you can instantly take them down, which is the real big difference. For a Marshal, you have to headshot them if they have armor, and if they don't have armor, you can body shot, but with an Operator, 150 to the body, 255 to the head, 127 to the leg, you can essentially body shot anybody and take them down, which is really where this, if you want to run that sniper, if you want to hold down an angle, is going to be most effective. You can kind of whiff, you don't have to be as accurate, and you could still get the damage and take somebody down and hold down one of those sight lines for your teams. This is a really, really important distinction, but if you like getting headshots, if you like practicing, or maybe the fire rate or the feel of the Marshal is better for you, I suggest going for it. For the op, clearly the best sniper in this game. All right, let's talk about the heavy and why we don't see these weapons very often. And part of it is not that there's any lack of value to these weapons in this game right now. They just serve a very distinct purpose. They're full automatic. They've got a fire rate of 10 to 13 rounds a second if you hold them down, but they're not going to be that accurate if you do so. From 0 to 30 meters, they're going to get their maximum amount of damage, which is 30 to 72 to 25 body, head, leg, respectively. And that's going to drop down to 28, 67, and 23 between 30 and 50 meters. It's got high wall penetration, so if you do like to spray and pray, if you do find yourself wanting a little bit more wiggle room, you can go ahead and opt for the Ares. But the problem is it's not as accurate from range, it's not as damaging for the headshots compared to the Vandal or the Phantom, and so it comes underneath most of the rifles and serving that kind of that purpose that can apply to many different characters and playstyles. However, if you do want to just hold down a corner, run and gun, get up close or in that medium range with a heavy assault weapon, hitting some of these body shots is really going to annihilate an opponent. The Odin is the bigger of those bad boys. It's the most expensive weapon in the game at 3,200 credits. Now, this one is fully automatic. It's got a faster fire rate from 12 to 15.6 rounds a second if you hold it down. The zoom will reduce the spread and keep it at a 15.2 rounds per second fire rate. And the body damage is 38, headshots 95, and leg is 32. From 0 to 30 meters, that drops from 31 to 77 to 26. Now, unfortunately, the game is so early that we haven't seen a lot of these put into play yet, but I'm excited to see what people do with these heavy assault rifles, and really find a way to hopefully integrate them into their playstyles. But so far, you gotta say the Vandal, most likely, and the Op, as well as anything on the rifle side, plus the early Ghosts and Sheriffs, take the cake for being the best weapons in Valorant right now. Let me know if you agree, disagree, comment down below, and of course subscribe to the channel for more Valorant information and tips. I'll be giving those out in the next upcoming days. Thanks so much for watching. Never give up, never stop gaming, and I'll see you all next time.